Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show. It is Expresso. We're live here on S3 as we open up to all things health this morning on a Tuesday morning. Thank you very much for waking up with us. Now, let's talk about epilepsy. We know that it is a chronic non-communicable condition of the brain that affects an estimated 50 million people globally. It is estimated that up to 70% of people living with epilepsy could live seizure-free if properly diagnosed and treated. That's very important to note. And this morning, we're joined by Wendy, Nefdt, and Lauren Frank from the Epilepsy South Africa ahead of National Epilepsy Week to raise all of the awareness that we need to have. Ladies, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for joining us. Tabisa touched on it briefly, but maybe, Lauren, you can unpack that. What exactly is epilepsy and what causes this condition?
Okay, so epilepsy is a physical condition that's characterized through unusual electrical activity in the brain. It is also a symptom of a neurological condition that is evident through reoccurring seizures.
Okay.
So approximately 66% of cases where the underlying cause of epilepsy is unknown, and this is referred to as idiopathic epilepsy. The rest of the cases make up symptomatic epilepsy, which refers to where the underlying causes of epilepsy are known. So just a few examples of the possible causes are head injury, birth injury, where there's a lack of oxygen during birth, degeneration, which means aging or getting older, excessive use of drugs and alcohol, or biochemical imbalances or disturbances in the brain.
So who can get epilepsy? I mean, yes, you've mentioned some of the areas and the trauma sort of factors that can take place and trigger for somebody to get that. But are some people more susceptible to getting or having epilepsy than others, Wendy?
Yes, no, epilepsy, as you say, is not contagious. And I think that's one of the first things. Often in families, people say, oh, my aunt has, my mother has. Well, I also develop seizures, you know. Epilepsy can occur at any time in your lifetime, from birth, and that could be either during the birthing process, where there's a lack of oxygen, or head injuries. And as you go, often in your adolescence, you can also start having seizures. And then, of course, as the person grows older, often a person who's seizure-free or doesn't have epilepsy, as Lauren said, it's a recurring pattern.
Oh, wow.
One seizure doesn't mean epilepsy.
Okay.
It's
So
recurring,
it has to be recurring for it
all the time.
Yes, I see.
So even when you are older, through, particularly with violence in our country, head injuries, trauma cases, you can develop injury to the brain, a particular lesion on the brain. And then there's other conditions, medical conditions, that also with the degeneration could also trigger seizures in the brain.
Got it. I'll actually never forget this. One day I was actually seeing someone get a seizure. It was in my neighborhood, and someone went to run and got a spoon. And I'm sure you're looking at me like, no, this is not what you do. But what should you be doing when someone is getting a seizure? And maybe speak us through like the treatment options available if someone is diagnosed with epilepsy.
Okay, so the first thing to do is to remain calm.
Which is a hard thing to do if somebody's going through a seizure.
It is, because you automatically go into that panic state like, oh my word, what do I have to do? So the first thing to do is to remain calm and probably breathe, to be reassuring, because the person that's experiencing the seizure at that given point in time is unaware. Then the next thing to do is to time the seizure. So to time how long it lasts. If it lasts longer than 6 minutes, then it's very important to contact emergency services. The next thing to do is to also protect the person from any injuries. And this can be done by cushioning the head, by loosening any tight clothing that the person may be wearing, to not put anything in the person's mouth, and to not restrict movement. Then following that is just to also help the person breathe better by turning the person onto his or her side into the first aid recovery position. And then it's also important to stay with the person until they are fully recovered. Then following that, the last thing to do is to inform the person once they're fully recovered, to inform the person what had happened so that they can record this information in their seizure diaries, which is also a valuable aid for the medical team.
Well, what are the stages of an epileptic seizure? And while you tell us about the stages of it so that we're able to identify one, maybe let's get into treatment options, which I think becomes the very important part of this conversation. What options are there?
Okay, so it's important to bear in mind that the only person that can diagnose someone with epilepsy is a medical professional that follows a clinical assessment.
Okay.
There are a range of treatments that are available that assist persons with epilepsy and also improve their overall quality of life. So these ranges from prescribed medication to surgical procedures. However, with regards to surgical procedures, it's important to note that this is only deemed viable on recommendation by a neurologist.
Okay.
Then in terms over and above medication and surgery, there are other alternatives such as the ketogenic diet, which is a strict diet that's high in fats and carbohydrates. Then there's the vagus nerve stimulation therapy that also aims to lessen and reduce the frequency and intensity of seizures.
Wow, lots to unpack here. Feel Good Breakfast Show. Lauren and Wendy is not going anywhere. If you'd like to find out more about epilepsy or need support, you can call Epilepsy SA on 0860 374 537 or visit their website at epilepsy.org.za. But like I said, they're not going anywhere. We're continuing this conversation in just a bit.
It's my Feel Good Breakfast Show.
Welcome back, everybody. This is your Feel Good Breakfast Show on this Tuesday. We're still continuing our health discussion this morning. And of course, we still have the representatives, Wendy, Nefdt and Lauren Frank from Epilepsy South Africa with us as we discuss National Epilepsy Week and its importance, and also to raise awareness about this very important topic. So thank you, ladies, for staying with us.
So, ladies, the thing is, and that's the bottom line of what you are saying to us, the message is loud and clear, is that not all disabilities are visible, right? And epilepsy is just one of those conditions that really do manifest in ways that aren't always necessarily visible. And that's why we've got the National Epilepsy Awareness Week. What is it all about, and why is it so important to shine the spotlight on this?
Okay. I think importantly, as you said, it is an invisible condition. And I think for us as Epilepsy South Africa nationally and internationally, we're using the theme of 60 million steps for epilepsy this year.
60 million
60 million steps. And that comes from statistics from the World Health Organization that states that 60 million people approximately in the world has epilepsy.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And if you want to disaggregate it, then it's 1 in every 100. 1 in every 100. It's the most common neurological condition.
Wow.
But the problem is, and you'll hear about the myths and the misconceptions about it. So Epilepsy Week annually, they use the word commemorate, but I think it is to actually escalate awareness about challenges and then also successes. But why should we separate people with epilepsy? We all have challenges and we all have achievement. But within disability, there are very specific challenges that faces people with epilepsy. So we have, in terms of the 50 million steps, as I said, the International Bureau for Epilepsy. This campaign started on the 10th of January and is leading up to the 14th of February, which is Valentine's Day.
Yes.
Yay.
And if I may just add in there, we all know Valentine as being, they say, is a patron saint of epilepsy. But this morning, watching your show, and I looked at that panna cotta that was done, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
You know, I need some now.
Don't worry,
we all celebrate panna cottas on Valentine's Day the way we celebrate and escalate issues from policy levels to really basic levels within the country. So our role as Epilepsy South Africa is to take that 60 million steps. We looked at the website and we've already achieved internationally 50 million steps.
Oh, I love it.
So that's
beautiful
compared to last year, which had the same theme. But it's not just about the numbers. It's about stepping forward into life to create awareness of people with disabilities and epilepsy. It's to create awareness of how you internalize information, because information is out there. We can speak about it.
Yes.
But how do we internalize information in order to facilitate acceptance, inclusion, get away from discrimination? Because epilepsy, I'm just going to add in there, it's not witchcraft.
Are those
Heard
some of
from
the myths
Lauren.
that
It's a
come
medical
through?
condition. It's a neurological condition. And if managed properly,
You can.
it can be managed.
I love that.
Love it. And I love that you guys reach a target with that 50 million steps
Correct.
already.
Yeah.
But I believe there is a theme for this week's National Epilepsy Week. What exactly is it?
Okay, so our branch in the Western Cape, just to add that we have branches in 5 provinces in the country. So people can reach out via our website. And very quickly, people always want to know, if we do, not just in the Western Cape, we have South Cape Group, Eastern Cape, up to Mpumalanga, Gauteng, Free State, and then a national office in Gauteng. So a lot of work is done virtually also between us. People can reach out via the website or 860 Epilepsy to get hold of the nearest branch. So we are there. So Epilepsy Week is about creating awareness of what services, what information, and also, besides just advocating for the rights of people with disabilities, what we also do is to build capacity by providing them with information such as the UN Convention, and then, of course, the Constitution, White Paper on Disability, so that they can themselves enable themselves in order to take a step forward.
And kill the stigma, but also survive, live and thrive. Lauren, before we let you go, very, very quickly, the one message you want to leave everybody with when it comes to this level of awareness, what is it?
Okay, so it's to break the stigma and break the barriers that persons with epilepsy and also other disabilities are facing. So like Wendy mentioned, there are various myths and misconceptions about epilepsy. So we'd like to break that stigma. For example, persons with epilepsy cannot work. This has severely impacted persons with epilepsy in finding work because there's this notion that they cannot work. So we'd like to break that stigma and break the barriers that persons with epilepsy face worldwide.
That's exactly what you're doing right now. Ladies, thank you so much for this very important conversation. Again, if you would like to reach out, that number is on your screen right now. However, you can also visit that website, which is epilepsy.org.za.